any type of feedback to your information?
No, because I haven't published it yet.
Well, I mean, it's sort of been published.
Well, yeah, but it's just about a month ago that a summary came out. The Mormons haven't had a chance to respond to it.
Well, we'll do everything we can to try to find some place to publish that. We'll do a good job with it, because I think it would be very good to find out just what the LDS Church, how it responds to this type of a question. Wes, I'm going to put you on hold just a moment so that you can hear our first caller, and then we're going to take our first caller out in Mesa, and this is Craig. Go ahead, Craig, and state your question.
Okay. I've been doing some of the studies, since I got the information, as I called last week, talked to you about.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And before I talked about, like the road repairs or the land tax, I just want to make sure that, if, once I tell, what I found or what I've come across, then if, he'd be able to respond, will I be able to get back on and then tell about the land tax? So I wanted to separate it into two categories. The road tax, road repairs is one thing, and the land tax is a separate thing.
Well, if you have to do it separately, I suppose we can. It would be easier if you just presented your case and allowed him to respond to it.
Well, because they're two separate issues is why I wanted to separate them.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead and present your first one. We'll put you back on.
I wanted him to make sure, or at least specify, the reference of where Marvin Hill agreed to that the revival being in 1824. Where is that published, or where is that found, if he knows that?
Okay.
And then, then about road repairs. Concerning the tax record, road repairs, if Joseph Smith Sr., signed it in 1817 that he'd maintain roads in District 26, is there, first of all, a specific boundary? Do these references or these maps, do they show the boundaries of District 26, where it entails, to specify where Joseph Smith was living at the time, and and if it crossed over county lines or if it just went in, I was trying to figure out. Also, that he signed it in 1817, he showed his name, I guess, in 1818, 1819, and those other things. But I'm trying to question is, this information or these signatures is the way it seems like it appears. Does it show the boundary?
Okay, now...
But then when he moved from Palmyra to Manchester, which there again, it really wasn't Manchester yet, it was Farmington, did that require a change of road district?
Yeah, well, he did mention that, Craig, but I'll let him respond to that. Is that the first section you wanted to ask?
Yes.
Was about where did Dr. Hill admit the revival took place in 1824, and secondly, what were the boundaries to the road tax assessment area, right?
Map showing the district boundaries.
Okay, hold on just 1 second. Wesley.
Yes.
Did you hear those?
Yes, I heard both the questions. Marvin Hill mentioned that in a talk that was given at the Mormon History Association about 1983-4, somewhere around in there, and it was subsequently published in Sunstone magazine. I can't give you the issue and the the month, the year and the month. I'd have to look at my notes, but he will find it in Sunstone magazine, and he could probably write Sunstone or write you, and I could look it up and give it to you.
Okay.
But that's where that is. Now, as to the road tax, each township had its own commissioners of highways, its own road tax districts. And the Farmington minutes of the township of Farmington are still extant, and the little village of Farmington owns the township office owns the records. And these were lost for a long time until the archivist that I mentioned had found the assessment records, also found these records of the of Farmington. And they all have their road districts numbered, and they're not the same. They use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
right,
but they're not the same road districts that are in Palmyra. Now, fortunately, in Palmyra, there still is in the township office a highway record book that starts in the 1790s, and one has to start at the beginning and read through. It's a laborious task, but I've done it. And what they would do, as more and more people moved in and the areas became settled, they would divide road districts, and they would put some road from one place to another, move it. It was part of District 7, now it's going to be part of District 9. But what you find is that Road District 26 stayed the same throughout the whole time that we're concerned with. But one has to read the whole record in order to do that. But the whole book is extant. The whole book has been microfilmed by the New York State Archives, and the typed transcript of the whole book has been microfilmed by BYU, so whichever is easier for you to read. I'll tell you, it's really easier to read the typed transcript of it.
I bet it is. Now, in reference to Craig's question then, did the boundaries, what I got from his question was, could Joseph Smith have moved from Palmyra to Manchester and still stayed in the same road tax boundary area?
No, because you have a different set of road districts in Manchester. And in fact, they were so guarded about their own road tax district, even today, people in the township next to you don't want you going over and taxing their people to support your schools or whatever's in your district. They would fight like everything against that. The township would.
Exactly. Okay.
So what you have is, like, sometimes the roads ran down the township lines. In fact, in most cases they did. And so they would there are, in the town minutes of Farmington and in the town minutes of Palmyra, you will find dual entries where, say, the road ran down 150 feet down the township line between Palmyra and Farmington. Well, they would come to an agreement that maybe the first 75 feet would be maintained by Palmyra, and the next 75 feet would be maintained by Farmington. And that would mean that the Farmington people were at liberty to require the people living along that road who really lived in Palmyra to work on the road that ran down the township line, and vice versa. But what you don't find any arrangement like that where Smith is living over the township line and is required to work the roads in Palmyra.
Okay.
Had there been such a situation, if you envision such a situation, living in Manchester and having to work the roads in Palmyra, there would have to have first been an entry in both sets of town records. And the town records are extant, so it's I've been through both sets, and there's just not anything there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very, as jealously as people regard their own tax base, they're not going to let some other group come in and tax one of their guys without reciprocation or agreement, at least.
Right. Okay. Now, I told Craig that I'd give him a second question here, so I'm going to put you back on hold there, Wesley, and go back to Craig.